afternoon, or good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever you're joining us from in the world, I'm RJ Horner, host of Open Up. Welcome to our live talk show, Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Um, I'm the vice president of Voice of Men 360, and I'm also the facilitator of my own community called Live and Love Life. So let me share a brief introduction about Voice of Men 360, International Men's Day, and our talk show, Why Open Up is so important. Voice of Men 360 is a not for profit organization founded in 2020 in Toronto, Canada. And many men and boys are seeking help and support in many areas of their lives. We understand the demands and the support needed when it comes to the challenges our men and boys face. So we were born from that tremendous need and stepping up to provide the services and support needed for our men and boys. We're part of International Men's Day, and IMD has been serving for over 21 years so far, and it's represented in 90 countries around the world, joining together to compete in various activities around the world. IMD follows 6 pillars, which represent the overall well-being of boys and men, and we follow in those same footsteps here. So why is Open Up so important? Because our men and boys are not willing to share their matters, their journey, their feelings. And when we keep our emotional challenges and our feelings held in, this can lead to overall poor well-being, mental health issues, and overall negative effects for our men and boys. That's why we want to create an open space and allow individuals to share their life journey through our platform. We aim to create awareness about the life challenges and the struggles and how to overcome the ups and downs that our men and boys go through. There are no limitations with gender, age, nationality, ethnic groups. Everybody's welcome to participate in our program. Our goal is to make a positive impact on someone's life through this program. Open Up is on Sunday mornings, as I mentioned, 10 a.m. to 10:30 Eastern Time. It's early on this Sunday morning, and each week we bring an individual and share their experiences with you. Today we have a special guest, Arthur Lockhart. He has a master's in education. And over 43 years, he's held the positions of a professor of social and community services, a chair of the School of Social and Community Services, chairman and founder of the board of directors of Gatehouse, and executive director at the Gatehouse. And he is coordinator for advanced justice studies and has a certificate in that. And he's a senior development manager and Ministry of Correctional Services. Also, he is the founder of the award-winning charitable organization, the Gatehouse, a founder of the International Transforming Trauma into Triumph Conference, and co-founder of Laser Eagles Art Guild. A very accomplished individual, very active in social services. Welcome, Arthur Lockhart, to Open Up.
Hello, great to be here. Nice to meet up with you today.
Thank you. Thank you for being willing to come out on this Sunday morning and sharing your life journey with us.
Glad to do it. Really glad to do it.
And so you've been involved in social services and helping people and their journey for a long time. But take me back maybe to the beginning. What's the earliest memory you can think of where you decided this is where you were going to go or led you to this path?
I didn't know it at the time because, in all honesty, it probably happened when I was about 5 or 6 years old. And it comes out in a way this way. I lived in Kirkland Lake. It's a mining town in northern Ontario, and they had an outdoor swimming pool. And one day, my brother and I and a few of our friends were there going swimming. And they had left the change room and had run off to the swimming pool. And I was catching up behind them. And I just put on my swim trunks and wrapped my towel around my neck and was running out behind them. And I froze. And I'm 5 or 6 years old. And I froze on the sidewalk. I just stopped in my tracks. And I leaned down. And the reason I froze was there was a blade of grass growing out of this solid concrete. And as a little kid, I was just mesmerized. How was it even possible? And so I reached down and I didn't pull the blade of grass out of the cement. I just touched it with my thumb and forefinger and was in awe of this. And then I jumped up and ran after him, joined up with my brother and friends, and spent the day at the pool. Later that day, I told my mother, or asked my mother, I said, how is it possible for grass to grow in a sidewalk in concrete? And my mother was a very, very beautiful woman, said to me, just simply said, well, Art, there was a crack in the sidewalk, I'm sure. Rain got in, and there was a seed down there, and the seed turned into a blade of grass, and that's how that happened. And so I said, okay, and went away. But later, it really, when I say later, many years later in my life, what really I realized that was true but incomplete. What the blade of grass was representing is what your organization is all about. In fact, I would say the 360, your organization is that blade of grass. Your voice, Savannah's voice, everybody's voice that's working in the field of dealing with abuse is that blade of grass, in terms of it's pushing up through the dark, the gravel, the asphalt, the concrete, and it's so flexible and so powerful that it can break open any form of oppression, concrete, for example, and it reaches up and touches another human being. And that's what you're doing right this minute, actually. Your program right this very minute is that blade of grass in action. It's reaching out and connecting with people. And that's where it started for me. From it, I didn't know it, but that's where it began. This idea of engaging in the struggle related to any forms of suppression and oppression. So that's kind of how it all began for me, I think.
Yeah, and that's, again, we are a voice, and I think that's important. Whether we have a voice or we empower other people to have that voice. Thank you for that powerful metaphor and relating us to that blade of grass, because you never know what can come of that one little push, that one little moment of force, right? So,
yeah, absolutely.
So, take me forward from that moment. What realization led you to becoming this authority as you are in social services?
From through the childhood and growing up, we my parents had to struggle with issues of what you might frame as poverty. Never saw ourselves as poor, but we were on the move a lot from one job to another. And in that, what I watched was my mother and father bringing incredible dignity and unbelievable strength to dealing with some very, very difficult issues in their lives. And so, but they never gave up. They just never gave up. And no matter what kind of settings, we lived in some pretty rough spots. And no matter what they were like, they always said, we can get through this. We're going to work through this. So those were watching my parents work through struggles, various forms of oppressions that they met up with, invited me to just engage in that work. And so found myself looking to articles and books, people who were dealing with struggles. And that led me into the world of education. And from that, just meeting up with different people, literally from around the world, that were dealing with a variety of issues, and wanting to work with them. And so that's what it came from. My family is where it came from.
You're taking all my questions away, because really we're talking about what your relationship was. Okay, but and let me ask that then. So you've always had positive relationships, or positive influences. So have you had negative influences, and how have they affected you?
Absolutely. My first encounter with abuse was a personal one, insofar as when my father was looking for work, he said to me and our family, he was leaving Kirkland Lake, this mining town, to go to Toronto to get at work. And he said, Arthur, you take care of your brother, my younger brother, and my two younger sisters, and your mom, while I'm down getting looking for work in Toronto. So he left, and 2 days later, I was involved with a Cub Scout egg carton drive, and the Cub Scout leader asked me to come to his house to pick up egg cartons for this drive. We're getting 2 cents a carton for this drive we're involved in. And when I went into his house, he grabbed me, and I'm not going to go through all the details, but basically began an assault on me. I somehow extricated myself from that, got away from that, and found myself within, like I say, 2 days of my father leaving, I'm being assaulted by this man. And that changed the world for me in so many ways. That was that oppression coming back over. I can remember the day after it happened, I was going to school, and I thought, all my friends look different. The kids in the classroom look different to me. And of course, what it was the trauma. I was the one seeing myself as different now from everyone else. So I made a commitment to myself at that point, that no one would ever harm me again in that way. And that led me on a journey to, I guess, well, I'm sitting here doing this. In response to that, how do we help people who have been harmed as children? And I can tell you more stories about those people that I've met along the way, if you like, as we go along here.
Again, you know what? I can understand where you're coming from. I actually had a similar incident when I was a very young boy, and it gave me resolve that was never going to happen to me again in my life.
Sure.
So that resolve alone takes you to another level. It helps you become a stronger-willed person.
Yeah.
At what point did you decide you were going to help push other people in that direction and help empower them in that direction?
Okay, so in essence, just to frame a couple of things, two things simultaneously happen when a person's harmed as a child, whether in the sexual abuse, sexual assault. Right away, the first thing that happens to a person isn't even the assault in and of itself. It's you lose your voice. Your voice is taken away from you. It's taken away by somebody threatening you, saying they're going to kill your family if you say anything, threatening you personally, or saying, I'm only doing this because you're very special. And so this is just a secret to keep between the two of us. Whatever it is, and there are many, many more variations on that. So your voice is taken away. And as you go through life, you start to edit things that have happened to you as a child in response to that trauma. And in that process, the second thing is happening. You're thrown off balance. Your sense of self is thrown off balance. And so imagine walking through life, if every time you tried to speak your truth, somebody put a hand over your mouth. Every single time you tried to do that. It can really, as we both know, take people down some very, very terrifying and traumatic pathways. So knowing that, what I found myself doing was diving into uncovering how do we respond to that trauma. And so that's what I've dedicated, I guess, basically my life to finding that. In my courses, when I'm teaching at the different colleges, universities, whatever I happen to be speaking at, it was inevitable after we would talk about family violence, for example, or violence in general, about abuse, someone would come up and then ask to go for a coffee, and we would sit, and I always would say yes. I always say yes. Have a cup of coffee. And one of the most common refrains that came out of it was somebody saying, I just want to tell my story. That was the biggest piece.
Exactly. That's exactly. Listen, again, mine happened to me when I was a young boy.
Yeah.
And it's a story for another day. But my biggest thing was, why won't my parents just believe me?
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's all I wanted out of that situation. I didn't care. and there was a whole bigger situation, but
Yeah.
why wouldn't my parents believe me? I wanted my voice to be heard from them anyways.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so,
and it's a very, very powerful point that you're raising right there. If I can, just on that point, doing a talk in class, this is back in 1996, and about this very thing, what you're just articulating, saying my parents wouldn't believe me. So I'm doing the talk in the class. Student comes up, says, I need to talk with you. Would that be okay? Yes, let's go. And we have a coffee. And our office was an open concept office. So we sat in my car rather than in this open concept area. And it happened to be raining, and we each had a cup of coffee, and I had the windshield wiper going so the person wouldn't feel so claustrophobic. And it was on a highway into the campus of Humber College. And the person said to me, I just want to tell my story. And as she was saying this, she says she had been to different people that were telling her that she was broken, that she had to, if only she told the police would help her. And that she said that she did do that, and that didn't work out as well. And there's all kinds of variations on that. And as she's telling me, I just want to tell my story, the windshield wiper would go shh, like this. And there was this house in front of us at the edge of the campus grounds, over 100 years old. No, the roof had fallen in, the windows were boarded up and all that. And I was thinking as she was talking, wouldn't that be amazing if that house was built so she could come and tell her story? So that's when we got into actually building the Gatehouse, starting the building of it, and opened in 1998. The point of that story is creating a space for people's voices to come out.
yes.
That is the most powerful thing anybody can do, because just as you said, a person goes to their parent and their parent says, oh, so-and-so wouldn't have done that. That's just not possible. Or are you sure it really happened the way you're saying? Those kinds of elements are in the stories of literally thousands of people who have been connected to the Gatehouse that we have heard. So I think that what you're doing here is so significant in terms of the work of voice coming forward.
Yeah, our community, I mean, we named it right up front. We are the voice of men 360, the voice of men around the world, the best of our ability. We're helping to raise those voices. So you are about the same. The Gatehouse is about voices, each individual having their voices, but supporting each other to help that voice, right?
Yeah. What we say, the phrase for the Gatehouse is a safe place where everyone has a voice. And so over the years, what we have found that is that people aren't broken. Oftentimes people have been framed as being broken, or they're framed as not having the power or the agency to deal with their issues, when in fact they are incredibly strong people who've been abused, incredibly strong. And in fact, they're here because of their strength. So what we want to do all the time is say that you're not broken. Terrible things have happened in your life, but you are a strong person when you start to tell your story. And when people tell their story, their strength touches other people. So that's the whole notion of a group narrative, where other people hear each other's stories and they build on each other's strengths in the storytelling. And that is, in my experience, there's many, many powerful ways of people responding to trauma. But the minute you can say out loud, or even in sign language, or various forms of expression, drawing, sculpting, whatever, that your voice is coming out to be able to tell people your story, that's when real trauma is transformed into triumph.
Absolutely. And I think something else, when for us internally, when we share our story, it empowers us because it gives us a feeling of release as well as ownership. Like we know it belonged to us, it happened to us, but now we are able to let off steam, I guess, as it releases from us.
Well, I like the idea of letting off steam because that steam is almost like a magical formula, right? That one of the key tenets, pillars at the Gatehouse, and versions of your organization, I'm sure as well, is that when people come to these organizations like your place or the Gatehouse, one of the things that I've observed over all these years is the they become the facilitators. They become the keepers of the stories and the facilitators of the storytelling. It's not somebody else, it's them. And in their strength, that is imparted to someone else's opportunity to become a group facilitator, let's say. And then that person tells their story. Uh, so that steam that you mentioned is actually almost like an elixir. It turns into this opportunity for strength to be coming forward. And that is absolutely magical to see that happen.
That was my journey too. Again, I started beginning to just share my story, and then my next journey was how do I support others, and I became a peer support facilitator.
Yeah.
So I am, qualified to help lead people in their journey forward. So I totally believe in that, and I'm grateful for organizations just like yours because again, we are just starting our work. We are opening up the door for more voices.
Yeah.
You have already been established and empower people. You give them a platform to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. And what they've been doing, just give you an example. Uh, there's a couple that I may like to share with you at one.
Please.
Okay, so one fellow came to the Gatehouse, and that what had happened is he came to the house, and there's 5 steps to come up to the front door. He walked up the 5 steps, put his hand on the door handle, took it off, went back down, got back in his truck, and drove to a park not far from where the Gatehouse is. Parked his truck, opened up the glove compartment, and took out a handgun. And he put the gun in his mouth. And then he took the gun out of his mouth, put it back in the glove compartment, drove back, came up those steps, and opened the door. And he's told me that this is the story that he was telling me. And came into the Gatehouse. And he went through all the processes that were involved in there. About 6 or 8 months after that event, we were having an outdoor activity at the Gatehouse. It's in a beautiful, beautiful setting down there at the lake. And there are all kinds of people there. And this fellow came up to me and tapped me on my shoulder, and I turned around. And he said to me, Arthur, I said hello to him, and he said, Arthur, I'd like you to meet my son and daughter.
Hello.
I'd like you to meet my son and daughter. And it's in those moments that you realize just how powerful and strong people are with dealing with all the trauma that they have dealt with. So here is a guy who may have taken his life, but his inner strength came out, and now he's this father and husband, and he has these 2 vibrant kids, and they're living a full life. And so that kind of experience can't help but to say, we need to keep doing this work. We need to keep creating the process for people to be able to have these experiences. And so at the house, for example, people who have come in who have attempted suicides are now running groups. They've been involved in work that's connected around the world. We've had our work from the Gatehouse is spread out around the world. I'm bragging about the people at the Gatehouse. I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about the people at the Gatehouse that are doing this work. And these were folks who, one fellow was living on the streets. He comes to the Gatehouse. He does his work there. And now He's doing some incredibly vibrant work. And so there are many, many stories. I'm sure you have the same, like you can tell stories like that too. But that's the significance of all of this, that we can work through our traumas if there's a space, a safe space for people to tell their stories.
Yeah, allowing people, first of all, showing people that they can open up, they can have a voice, and
Oh,
then how to use that voice, and that voice can be such a powerful tool for
yeah,
others, right?
absolutely.
And you guys certainly do that. Not only, and you guys have training programs and other resources at the Gatehouse that people
Yeah,
can follow so that they can get set up, they can share their story to help empower others.
yeah, absolutely. And there's a session coming up. I hope you might let people know through your organization with 2 facilitators at the house. Anybody can go to thegatehouse.org and take a look at the next session that is coming up, and that they're training or doing this workshop for people. And it's an extraordinary group of people. The fellow, one of the 2 facilitators, he's going to be leading the session. And the beautiful thing about this, it's about voice. This is the fellow who, they say he had cancer on 2 different occasions and actually had his throat removed. His larynx was taken out where the cancer was, and the thought was he would never speak again. He is leading the sessions. It's extraordinary when you think about that. He is now cancer-free. He's a Shaolin Kung Fu trainer. He's a storyteller. Um, he's gone through all of these traumas, and he is speaking. And so there's just so much wonderful alchemy and magic in places like your place here and the Gatehouse and other organizations around the world. And we've just got to keep working together.
Right. Absolutely. And I think there's synergy between your organization and
Yeah,
our organization. So I hope through us, we can lead them to you
yeah,
because there's value to be had in your community as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
We do have a time limit
yeah,
today, but I do, before you leave, you're an expert in trauma.
yeah.
What can we do to help relieve that trauma and move forward?
One of the most powerful things, and it takes practice, but one of the most powerful things anybody can do when they're going through trauma is to pause. Now, that what I mean by this is, in fact, it's an acronym. Pause at the Gatehouse stands for Paying Attention Unveils Sacred Experiences. Pause. When you're feeling incredibly, let's say, depressed, or you're feeling incredibly anxious, or you're frightened, or you're moving into some behavior that historically hasn't been the best behavior for you to engage in, and you know you're going in that direction, or you feel you have no way to talk to anybody, you take a breath in through your nostrils, out through your nostrils. Just pause for that brief moment. Take a breath in the way I'm describing. As you're doing that, then you say to yourself, what capacities do I have? I can breathe. I can move my eyes up and down. I can move my fingers. I have, all of a sudden, from the smallest breath, you start to see all the capacities that you have. I can actually move. And I'm talking about situations where people have been confined in places that you're paralyzed. You cannot physically move. If in any setting, I just breathe for that, take it in, let it out, another step in, another step out. What is that? What is it that I have? I can move my hand. I can do this. I can do that. Think about that. And if extending it even further, when people get into arguments or difficulties, it's reactionary. They react to the situation. They get angry because they got cut off on the highway or something like that. What if I just immediately took a breath and let it out? That is one of the most powerful things anybody can do in any situation. When you're confused, scared, frightened, just take that 1 minute to pause and then let things surface. when the student came to me, we had just done an exercising about pausing in the classroom. She said to me that was the reason she came up and said to me, "Can I talk to you?" She was breathing in and breathing out. This is what they're telling. She told me, breathing out. And in that moment, for whatever was going on for her, she found herself saying, I can go, I can share my voice.
Mm.
When you pause, you get collected, you can move. It's like that little kid that I was when I was leaning down, bending down on the sidewalk. I was pausing without knowing it.
Right.
Pausing.
Yeah. And I think, not to make light of it, but I mean,
No.
you're giving people the process, but I mean, it is really about being aware and being in the now, living in the moment.
It is.
Catching a hold of that.
And just, and it, you know, you're being harmed at that moment. So I don't want to be in the moment if I'm being harmed or something like that. But the point is, if I do focus on my breathing, because if you think about any traumatic event in people's lives, the first thing that tends to happen as well, or one of the things that happens, is we hold our breath.
Mm.
We're frightened. We go like that. I know in my story, I was paralyzed emotionally. Like, so what if I can teach myself at any moment, any time, like that, then it helps me. I can keep coming back to that.
Okay.
That's the thing.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that, because you're right. There is a difference.
Yeah, there's a huge difference. Yeah.
So I know we're limited today,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we could go on, but
Yeah.
thank you, Arthur, for coming out and being willing to share your example and being open up and willing to share your journey today.
And I just to say to you guys, your work is so significant. Way to go. Keep on going. And I certainly hope the Gatehouse and you folks collaborate together. You're doing beautiful, beautiful work out there. Very, very meaningful. So thank you for letting me share with you today.
Mm-hmm.
There's a question, RJ.
Sure.
Arthur, somebody's asking, do they do any indigenous trauma work?
Yes, absolutely. And all they have to do is connect with the Gatehouse, but absolutely 100% yes, we do. And there's even one of the books that I co-wrote is framed around Indigenous work and Indigenous restorative practices and transformative practices. So in fact, we even call it Restorative Justice Transforming Society. And that whole process is absolutely vital. We did the first restorative justice training in Ontario, the first ever, many years ago. And so, yes, we do. If you walk into the Gatehouse, the first thing you see is reference to the artwork of people, Indigenous artists who have been involved in the Gatehouse and have worked in the Gatehouse.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Yeah, there's so much synergy. I know we'll be working together moving forward, and I hope people can reach out to your community. Again, that is thegatehouse.org.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I hope people find out what resources you have available there. Thank you for joining us again this Sunday morning.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
So that's a perfect example of opening up, and that's our goal. To have people like Arthur come forward and share their journey, to help somebody out there change their mindset and change their life in a positive direction. We want all individuals to come out and share their life journey and have a conversation. All walks of life are invited to participate. So just a few announcements before we end our show today. Again, we have 4 live weekly talk shows. You've just participated in Open Up. We're here Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, where we share some personal life journey and how it can help you. Then we have a weekly webinar that's Saturday mornings at 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We have a Tamil language live talk show that takes place 7:30 Wednesdays p.m. 7:30 Eastern Time, and Sunday mornings at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. That's for people who live outside of Canada. Again, it's in Tamil language, and it's called Vili. That means I. We're also hosting a panel discussion twice a month. That's both in English and Tamil. We also turn our podcast material, our episodes, into podcast material. So please look out for that content and please participate at your convenience. And we've also started our monthly men's group, which is the third Sunday of every month. Please come out and participate in that. That's to, again, help empower men in their journey. So there are no limitations with age, gender, or ethnicity or ethnic groups. We want everybody to participate in our shows and share their life journey. You want to be a guest on our shows, or you're willing to be involved in our organization as a volunteer, please reach out to us. We would love to work with individuals, organizations, experts, or communities out there who want to help create awareness for men's work and do some great work together. So please reach out to us. You can reach out to us at our phone number, which is 437-889-8329. That's again our phone number, 437-889-8329. Our email address, which is info@voiceofmen.org. And of course, our website is voiceofmen.org. So please find us and reach out to us to become more involved. Of course, we can be found on all social media platforms. We are at Voice of Men 360. Follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, and of course, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us today. Please continue with your support. Until next time, I'm RJ Horner. Better days ahead.